Choo Choo Charles is finally out, and you know that I could not have been more hyped to play it. So in its around 4-hour playtime, what are some hidden details or secrets that you might not have picked up on? That's what we're exploring today, so let's do it. Right now. In a 10 out of bounds. There are multiple locked doors throughout Choo Choo Charles. Sometimes you have to find the key to unlock it. Other times it's a door to someone's house, so you really can't unlock it. But there's also one door in particular that is not only creepier than the others, but also isn't unlockable ever at all. And it's not even someone's house. Up on the northeastern area of the island, off the track, you can find a cabin surrounded by a moat of spikes, no doubt to deter Charles. However, in this cabin there is a mask for one of the cultists hanging on a bedpost and a gate leading towards a creepy basement. The basement for most players simply contains 7 scrap. However, there is a locked door here as well. While I personally ignored this while playing, thinking that I'd be brought back here at some point, I never was. Because behind that door is actually just a room that contains a note. And the note, should you read it, simply says, you shouldn't be in here. Because, you know, you shouldn't. It's out of bounds. You would have had to cheat to get here. I would have personally liked a "you're not supposed to be in here" joke as a reference to Skyrim, given the many other video game references in this game, but it's still cool nonetheless, and it's kind of funny, and if you're a cheater, then it calls you out for it. Yellow Duck. At the northernmost part of the island, the peak in the northwest corner, there's a small little beach there. On your way off the track, because you know you gotta run here, you can run into some cultists, but should you manage to make it the whole way without dying, you'll find a giant yellow rubber duck floating off the coast around 40 meters out. This is certainly an interesting Easter egg, since it's not only a giant rubber duck, but it's also somehow staying still despite there being a storm and it being, you know, floating in the ocean. Those two things combined should have sent it miles away. Of course, this doesn't have to make sense. It's a freaking video game about a giant demon train spider, but given all the other odd things happening on the island, maybe this is just another monster. Maybe the reason this thing isn't moving is because it has extremely long legs that are keeping it in place. And based off their reaction to Charles, maybe the duck is too scared to actually reveal itself. Or maybe it's a reference to something that I'm just not understanding. Like, is there a duck in Thomas the Tank Engine? Or like, is this another gaming reference? Is there a reference to that TikTok where someone dropped big rubber duck in a river and then had to go find it later? I don't know. Okay, let me know your thoughts in the comments. In at 8, first priority. When I was playing the game, my first priority was upgrading my train's armor rating. I knew that this was going to be my game plan going in, but when I figured out that 1 scrap was required for 10% of your train repairs, it was an even better plan. I watched Eddie VR play it on his second channel, and he neglected armor, and it was getting him wrecked. So even in retrospect, I knew I had made the right call. But what I didn't realize was how insane that made my train rate off the bat. You see, I figured that if I didn't have to repair the train as often, then the damage in the end wouldn't really matter, or at least my damage rating. So I could focus on armor, and then I kept the speed and damage leveling together. So when it came to the fights with Charles, I could take some more hits before needing to repair, meaning that I could focus on damaging and working out a combat strategy. If I could at least keep pace with Charles so it was harder for him to catch up with me, and have my armor up at the same time, the lower damage I was dealing wouldn't really matter, since there is infinite ammo for the guns, and my train never ran out of fuel. So I could just keep going, and I could chip away slowly at his health if I needed to. But keeping armor up and then pairing the speed and damage was so insane, I actually ended up chasing Charles. I quite literally beat him and then went after him because I wasn't done with him yet. I was heated.
Get back here! I'm not done with you yet! Get back here, Shocker! I'll chase you to the ends of the earth!
In at 7, not the first time. Now, considering how this is a giant train spider demon thing, you'd figured that this is the first time it's showed up. I mean, it's literally based off one of the trains they have on the island, more on that in a minute, but the first time they saw Charles was after they unearthed the eggs, the ones that were the driving force behind this game's story. So what makes me think that this isn't the first time? Well, at the beginning of the game you can get a lockpit set from Daryl, the guy at the scrapyard. You know, you pass it on your way to the first mission if you follow the track. You use them to unlock the chest that Warren's goon had just thrown into his yard, and inside this is an ancient tablet which is described as a, quote, very old stone tablet that features some strange drawings, which I feel like is a reference to Skyrim and the Dragonstone, but that could just be me. But what was off about this one for me was that the ancient tablet had a drawing of people fighting a giant spider, but it was like a normal giant spider, not one that looked like a train, just a giant spider. So clearly this wasn't the first time time this has happened. I wouldn't have paid any attention to it, but it was marked as a critical item according to the game. Picking it up gives you the notification of critical item acquired. Return to Daryl to complete your mission, which is a notification you don't even get when collecting the eggs. And it's 6, Stupidity. There's also just the sheer stupidity on the island that I feel the need to address, okay? This needs to be talked about. So, my original questions for this game revolved around why nobody is doing anything about the giant train spider, which were partially addressed since this seems to be a relatively new threat to them in terms of like timeline in the game. But also, how is it that Eugene knows about the train that we can grab at the beginning of the game because the owner got killed right off the bat, but also doesn't know that there was a machine gun on the back? Someone clearly had to have added it, and if the engineer was dead, it wasn't him. Plus, Eugene didn't even know about it, so it couldn't have been him. So who added it? And if they added it, why didn't they take the fight to Charles their damn selves? Okay, not to mention the other random brain farts like Daryl not knowing how to use a lockpick. Like, dude, just look it up, okay? Or even like just try it, jimmy it around a little bit and hope that it works. It's been in the media for how long now? Come on. And I also can't forget Sergeant Flynn, who somehow didn't think to use the water tank above his burning shed to put out the fire. Sergeant Flint, more like Sergeant Flint, Michigan. But also, do you want to know how that fire started? Because he set off his flamethrower in a wooden shed. And yeah, I said in, not at, in. He was testing a flamethrower in a wooden shed while also being in that shed. He straight up deserved to die for that one, honestly, okay? That's not a win for natural selection. God, no wonder Charles was winning. And also, if you made it through this list, you're already halfway, so why don't you hit like and subscribe? And if you like the video enough, then we'll know you want more Choo Choo Charles, because this is fun. This is a fun list to write. Halfway through into number 5, POG Rocks. The development process for Choo Choo Charles took quite a while, as I'm sure you know. The game grew and grew and grew from its original idea, and 2-Star was streaming parts of the development, which gained some traction. So, in honor of everyone who subbed during those streams, 2-Star added rock towers. Basically, they're like stone cairns, or basically Inukshooks, and there's one for each person who is subbed. They're scattered across the island. To quote from 2-Star's Twitter, while playing Choo Choo Charles, you might find some strange rock piles. Each rock is dedicated to someone who subbed during the development live streams I did over the past year. They are POG Rocks. Very epic. So yeah, there you go. Each rock represents a viewer. So that's a nice little Easter egg and a way to get all those fans into the game because they subbed to you and supported, which is always good. Minute 4, Unexplained Origins. I hinted at this earlier on, but the actual origins of Charles and how he came to be are so freaking confusing. You see, the reason they call him Charles is because that's the name of the mining company run by Warren, the company that uncovered all of the eggs. But it's not because it's his fault that they're calling it that, it's because that's literally the train's branding. Since the trains are to transport materials, the trains are also Warren's. So, they're of course branded with the company logo, including our train before we start adding any armor to it. And all the other discarded trains that we find, like in the junkyard where you go to get the lockpick, they also have this branding on them. Charles somehow took control over or became a copy of the trains used by Warren and us while we play. How could that even happen? It's not like a hermit crab situation because Charles's face is on the front of the train. And if it was just a giant spider that was using the train like a shell, his face would like be in the caboose or something, okay? So what the hell is this thing if it took over or even replicated a train? Getting close to the end in number 3, Slender. If you remember back in like 2012 when Slender the 8 pages was all the rage, you're gonna love Choo Choo Charles because whether or not you got a chance to play it back then, you can play it in this game. Well, kinda. One of the optional side missions involves you having to grab half of the paranormal pages left in a nearby boulder field. You see, this woman has been finding 16 pages pinned to lampposts in that area for multiple nights in a row. But last night she was halfway through gathering them up when she was scared off by horrible noises and strange visions. She no longer feels safe walking out there, despite, you know, a giant train spider also attacking the island for the past little bit, which I feel like is the more unsafe option. I don't know why you ever felt safe out there to begin with if there's a giant frickin' train spider, but you know, that's aside the point. Being the monster hunter, museum curator thing guy that you are, and you know, with the offer of scrap metal, you go and grab those 8 pages while being chased by some form of pitch black creature with a white glow that's always flying at you, has a mini tornado under them, and if they catch you, you get teleported. So yeah, it's legally distinct, but definitely a reference to one of the most iconic YouTube horror games of all time. And ultimately, in number 2, Altars. Now, I thought that there was more to this game than there was, okay, I really did. Specifically because there are 3 random pillars or altars that you can find around the map. One of them is across from the final temple, another is by the house with the locked door that calls you out for cheating that I mentioned at the beginning, and another is closer to the middle of the island. My thinking was that 3 altars seemed to be the perfect size to have eggs right in the middle without them falling off. 3 eggs, I must be able to get a secret or some other cool ability by placing the eggs on these altars before I take them to the final fight. No, these don't do anything. You can't interact with them, they don't have anything around them that does anything, nothing. It's set up perfectly, there's 3 of them. It's set up so well, but there is a note at the one across from the final temple that I thought might possibly give me the way to do this, but no. Instead, it starts talking about some other entity, Gus the Bus, but it's just random ravings. Quote, beware the bus, his name is Gus. He's not on the island though, so don't worry too much. When you go back to the mainland, don't ride the bus. Gus Bus, bust the Gus. He's bad and fast. Charles fears Gus. Bro, what? I thought that this was gonna be like something insane, but it's just a crazy guy talking about a bus demon. And finally, in at number 1, secret ending. Now, I originally thought that there was a secret ending to the game while I was playing, because there were a load of videos saying things like Choo Choo Charles all endings or all boss fights, but there doesn't seem to be, okay? That's why I was investigating those pillars I mentioned in the last number. I thought that they were also a key to a secret ending, but it seems like there's only the one ending that doesn't include your death. Yeah, there's also no hidden achievements or any normal achievements about another ending either, but there is one for the main ending, so I'm gonna use all of that information to work out that I was wrong there. But there really seems like there could have been, especially given the end credit scene of all those thousands of eggs that were colors we didn't even collect. I figured that there would be a secret, better ending where we could destroy all of those, but apparently there's not. So there you go. If you're wondering about it, like I was, I promise you that there is no secret ending, unfortunately. Unless you're watching this a while later, and since then the game has been updated and added one. And if you want more theories about this game or others, be sure to check out our top 10 Choo Choo Charles theories video, or all the other theory videos we got. We got a lot of them, okay? One of them's about to pop up on your screen. Thanks for watching.